Welcome viewers, Dr. J.W. Ayub, theologist since 1994. Who is ruling Australia? A behavioural political analysis, the therapy journey. Episode 14. When Australians stop feeling safe to speak honestly. In the previous episode, 13, I explored the psychological deterioration emerging when populations are forced to survive inside prolonged contradiction, while political optimism increasingly detached from lived Australian reality. Well, viewers, in this episode, I'm going to examine what happens when people continue publicly participating while privately feeling unsafe to speak honestly about the reality surrounding them. Because at first, the silence still feels temporal. Australians simply avoid conflict, avoid arguments, avoid uncomfortable conversations likely to damage relationships, workplaces, reputations, or social standing. And viewers, that seemed understandable enough. Then slowly another recognition began surfacing beneath the exhaustion. Australians were no longer merely avoiding tension. Many were beginning to fear honesty itself. A man stands silently beside a workplace smoko table while political discussion drifts carefully around the group. Nobody speaks plainly anymore, not fully. Everyone watches language now, measures tone, rehearses phrasing internally before speaking aloud. The conversation continues, but the honesty does not. And that shift matters enormously, viewers, because societies begin psychologically fragmenting once truthful observation begins socially dangerous. While this truthful observation becomes socially dangerous, while contradiction remains institutionally protected beneath managed optimism. The cost of living keeps tightening, mental fatigue keeps spreading, trust keeps weakening, and communities keep thinning emotionally beneath the strain, and so do families and individuals. Yet beneath public language increasing, all of this increasingly insists the country remains resilient, progress remains visible, optimism remains necessary, and concern itself risks becoming harmful. And somewhere underneath the repetition, many Australians quietly begin adapting to another devastating paradox. The more unstable life becomes privately, the more carefully reality must be discussed publicly. And viewers, that adaptation slowly restructures the human personality itself. People begin self-monitoring automatically, filtering instinctive reactions, suppressing concern before consequence arrives, negotiating internally against their own perception to preserve employment ability, to keep their job, belonging, and social survivability. And for the Australian, the nervous system gradually has to learn truth may still be visible, But visibility itself increasingly carries risk. A woman sits silently inside a church car park after a difficult conversation regarding finances, family pressure, and social instability. Rain falls softly across the windscreen. She no longer fully knows which concerns are morally safe to express openly anymore. This is happening in Australia. And somewhere underneath this uncertainty, another devastating recognition slowly begins surfacing. Many Australians are no longer emotionally stabilising themselves around truth. They are stabilising themselves around consequence avoidance. And that changes Australia profoundly. Not only politically, psychologically, relationally, spiritually, physically, existentially. Because eventually populations continue functioning externally while internally drifting further away from honest, shared reality itself. And viewers, the paradox deepens further still. The more exhaustion spreads, the more optimism intensifies, the more instability rises, the more political reassurance expands, the more people deteriorate internally, the more carefully the language surrounding deterioration becomes managed. And that contradiction slowly fractures internal trust. Not because Australians are irrational, but because the body eventually struggles carrying realities, the surrounding culture increasingly pressures people to reinterpret continuously. And this is why deeper constitutional and Christian civilizational protections mattered historically. Truth restrained illegitimate power. Conscience restrained manipulation. Freedom of speech restrained coercive conformity. And human dignity existed beyond political usefulness because authority itself was understood to remain morally limited beneath higher accountability. And those protections still exist in Australia beneath the current political and institutional surface. They're buried, they're ignored, but viewers, Australia, they are not extinguished. The smoko table falls quiet now, I bet. And I bet most of the country does too. And somewhere beneath the managed political optimism, another truth slowly but surely, Australia, begins surfacing. And I ask you to listen very carefully to my closing comment. A civilization enters dangerous decline once people become more afraid of speaking honestly than living dishonestly. And that's what's happening in Australia now. I'm Dr. J.W. Ayub, theologist since 1994. Like, subscribe, comment to educate me, and share the video to help somebody else. I'll see you in the next episode.